The real politicians, so-called, and those who pontificate from the comfort of their armchairs, the political analysts and political experts, the intellectuals and the pseudo-intellectuals, will sooner or later all have their time and their say on constitutional reform. But for you and for us, it's your time now. Although this program has been in existence for a mere 8 weeks, it seems to be attracting a lot of attention and having a variety of effect on people depending on the class or group to which they belong. There are some people who do not want change because they benefit from the status quo, that is the present system. This group will do anything to prevent constitutional reform. Then there are those who fear change of any kind, because they have grown accustomed to the status quo, the present system, and they do not know how change will affect them. Then there are those who want change but have waited in vain so long for it to come that they have given up hope. So they sit idly by and languish in despair. There are those who think that change is impossible, so they have given up all hope. There are those who think that change is inevitable and will come no matter what they do, so they sit idly by and wait. But there are those who want change and know it will come because they are prepared to fight for it. To which category do you belong? Don't answer me. I think you should answer the man in the mirror. As you know, I usually start this program by reminding you of what we discussed last week, because I do not want you to forget the process and the logic of our thinking. Remember, last week we reached the point where we argued that the power of the elected representatives to Parliament, if we want them to have real control over the government, then the government should be separated from the Parliament. That is to say, no minister should also be a member of Parliament. And we also said, to achieve that situation, there should be separate elections, one to elect the members of Parliament on the basis of proportional representation, and another to elect the President or Prime Minister, call it what you will, on the basis of one man, one vote. And that person will head the government and become both the head of the government and the head of the Parliament. We said that the government must be separated from the Parliament. Seeing that the present Parliament was so structured that the members of the opposition were too few to effectively control the government, we said that Parliament should consist of about 100 members elected on the basis of proportional representation. Having dealt with the Parliament, we promised to deal with the government this week. Our suggestion is that the government, that is the executive, should be headed by a person, call him or her Prime Minister, President, who must be elected by the person on the basis of one man, one vote in an election separate and apart from the parliamentary elections. Having been so elected, the President then chooses his cabinet from persons whom, in his opinion, he feels best suited to run the country for the next 5 years. The President then becomes both the head of state and the head of the government. The first act of the President will then be to address the Parliament, and by extension the nation, and say what he's going to do for the ensuing year. He must have a plan. Soon after his address, he must then present his plan with his budget to the new Parliament for approval and for funding. Now remember, this is not the present Parliament to which he is going. He is going to that Parliament that we talked about. That is the Parliament which is selected on the basis of proportional representation and which now includes several interest groups. They will be the people who will be comprising the Parliament. So if the President is going to get his budget through, he will have to satisfy the widest cross-section of the population. Otherwise, his budget is not going to get approval. This separation of power makes for the deepening of our democracy and brings an end to the racial voting which has plagued this society for more than 50 years. It is going to be hard, a hard fight, to get constitutional reform because before the next elections, because I believe that neither the government nor the opposition wants real, genuine, fundamental constitutional reform. But we can get it. We can get it if the people are prepared to rise up against the authorities and demand it. Constitutional reform before elections. That must be the cry. Constitutional reform before elections. We must point out to the authorities that we are not talking about constitutional amendments. We are talking about constitutional reform. We must not accept any wishy-washy version of reform which leaves the system and the structures unaltered. The kind of reform we are talking about will put power, the power of the purse, in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the government, as it is now. As the system is now, do you know that the government can get up in the morning and decide to spend any amount of money on anything they feel like, and the people have to keep their mouths shut? They can do nothing about it. That is the present position, and that is what we must change. Take, for example, the crime situation. How much money has been spent by the past and the present government in getting advice on what to do about crime and the police service, when every Trinbagonian knows the answer? Bratton, whatever his name, tells us that tells us what everybody knows. Everybody knows that the problem in the police service begins with recruitment and ends with conditions of service. I've been telling them that for years. If they had a reformed constitution, as we recommended, that could not happen, because the people would have control over the national purse, and the reformed parliament would not have voted money for such extravagant expenditure. The secret lies in the power of the purse. But that is a subject we have to examine carefully. That will take more than the time that we have left. And I know that you are waiting anxiously for me to introduce our guest tonight. As I said last week, I shall, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, invite as many leaders as I can possibly get to come to this program to discuss with the people the issue of constitutional reform. So let me now introduce our guest for this evening. He is a person not unknown to controversy both locally and internationally, a former vice president of FIFA and a high official of many football associations, both at home and abroad, a businessman and a politician, a former Minister of Works and Transport, a former Minister of National Security, and now the present Member for Parliament for Chaguanas, Mr. Austin Chakwana. Jack, thank you for coming,
thank you very much.
And welcome to this program.
Thank you.
Jack, you have been both a beneficiary and a victim of the present constitution, and particularly the electoral system.
Yep.
What do you think of the present electoral system that we have in this country?
I think, to put mildly, that it needs changing, now more than ever. In fact, when you see what happened in the recent St. Louis election, I fear any election down the road, because what we have done is to push back this country some 20 years into a level of tribalism of the worst kind, and therefore any electoral system we have must be one that will help to remove, if not reduce totally, that level of tribalism. Otherwise we're in trouble.
Jack, you see, I have been saying that if you take the present electoral system and superimpose it upon the demographic distribution of the population, the results are known before the election.
That's right.
Because of the pattern we have of racial
That's
voting.
right.
And so
That's right.
Unless we break that, we can't become a nation. We have to break that.
I tried in one of this, but that seems to have been an aberration, right?
Yes, because when the general elections are held, the stakes change.
That's right.
And when the stakes change, people go back to the old pattern of racial voting.
Come back home.
So the only way to break racial voting is to have proportional representation where people will get together to promote their own interests. And they will vote into Parliament people who will look after their interests. The farmers, take the farmers for example. The farmers will say, hey, them fellows always telling us that they will support us and so on and so forth. They never do. We are going to form ourselves into a group, and we are going to put people in Parliament.
That's right.
And the workers...
But the fishermen?
The fishermen. The workers.
That's right. That's
so
right.
you're going to end up with a Parliament that have several interest groups.
That's right.
Not two monolithic groups with their feet in ethnic support.
Entrenched.
Entrenched there. Your own case, for example, I had taken on the amount of votes that you had got. Now.
In Chaguanas, I got 12,631 votes.
Yeah.
69%.
That's right.
And I mean, got 5,622. 28%.
That's right.
I have it, fact, right?
And note it. Now, the same thing happened to the COP in 1970.
COP, no?
Yeah, the same thing happened.
1970, COP on the wrong then.
In 1975.
The COP on the wrong.
No, not 75.
The COP came in 2007.
In 2007, they got about 160,000 votes.
But before them, the ONR did the same thing likewise.
Exactly. And they got no seats. Before them, the ONR got 91,000 votes in 1981, right. I think it was.
Not a damn seat for them.
And they didn't get a seat.
Yeah.
Now, what that is doing, that is excluding from the decision-making process people whose views must be heard.
That's right.
Whether people like your party or they don't like your party, that is irrelevant. People who like your party has a right to have their views heard.
I agree with you fully.
And people who like the COP have a right to have their views heard. And people, MSJ, They like to have their views heard.
Labour has a part to play.
But it cannot happen under this present constitution, and that is the tragedy that I think.
And you see, I don't want people to get the impression that what was tried in the local government was even the semblance of proportional representation.
It was a farce. That was not proportional representation. You were pointing out something to me earlier to show how unproportional the representation was.
Let's take Bob Arima, for example.
Go ahead.
Right? PM got 57% of the vote. COP got 20%. ILP got 22%. And the others got 1%. So here you have PM is 57% of the vote, got all the aldermen. Neither COP, nor ILP, nor anybody got any aldermen in Arima.
Although they got 20% of the vote,
yeah. and 22 for ILP.
And you got 22% of the vote.
But what is even more ridiculous, Bas? Take Tunapuna. The PM got 51% of the vote. COP got 24%. ILP got 24.7%. 0.7%, eh? Just point. So I know in school more than 0.5 as a whole. We got 24.7%. Because we didn't get 25%, because no other man. We didn't get all the other men. And this is the ridiculous thing we have passing.
Well, they should not have called that proportional representation.
Anything else but that.
They should have called exactly. They should have called it anything else but that. Because proportional representation is not to nominate people. Proportional representation is to elect people.
To elect people.
That's right.
And this is the whole point.
So that I'm hoping that the government does not intend to use this as some kind of ruse or some kind of pattern in order to avoid facing the real question of proportional representation at the next election.
But when you sit in Parliament, Bas, and you have people in Parliament who should know better, who come 5 minutes before a debate and give documents to accept this level of what they call proportional representation, and you sit down there and you hear people talk, it's sick thing, because at the end of the day, the eyes have it.
Sure.
The eyes have it.
That, you are really getting to the point. That is one of the major problems I see, that because the government controls the parliament, it can do what it wants. It can carry on a meeting until 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
And when everybody's asleep, I'm too tired to say aye or nay to take the vote.
That's right.
Now that should not happen. They should not be in control of the parliament. The parliament should have been able to determine when it will adjourn the matter, when it will adjourn the hearing, and when it will come back.
There is no parliamentary agenda. Parliament is called Vai. It's called this week, it's called next month. It's called next month, it's called 2 months after. You have no idea when it's called. You can't plan your life. You don't know what to do. I mean, I tell you something. Come back now. Come back. Who? You come back now.
I look in the wrong receipt.
No, I tell you.
I look in the wrong receipt. You're talking to somebody else.
We could not be worse off than we are now. I'm being honest with you. And I'm telling you that, therefore, constitutional reform must take place to correct what exists. And people will talk and say, oh, when you were there, you weren't saying anything. The fact is now that you're in the kitchen, you're feeling the heat, and I could understand it no more than anybody else.
Exactly.
More than anybody else.
But that's the reason I want to call the leaders to discuss this matter, because they are the ones who make the laws. They are the ones who suffer the indignities in Parliament, the opposition and so on. And therefore, they should know, and they should give their experiences to the people, as you are doing tonight. So,
I also want to tell you this also, sure. if I may, I hope I'm not too precipitate. But there's something called independent commissions.
Independent commissions.
Public Service Commission, Statutory Service Commission, Integrity Commission, and so on and so on. But these commissions must be accountable to somebody.
Correct.
To somebody.
Right now they're accountable to no one.
To no one.
Well,
and when you come in a government and you come in there, you have a delivery agenda to deliver A, B, C, D, F. These commissions, so-called independent commissions, if they wish, unless you have a personality like you had in your time, can frustrate you if they want to.
Well, you see, that is one of the things I'm hoping, is that we have a parliament that's not going to run government. The parliament is going to monitor the government activities.
Absolutely superb.
So that the Parliament is not unlike the American Senate, where they will appoint committees on several matters. If they want to appoint committees on corruption, they appoint committees on corruption. And if there are allegations of corruption, the government can't just turn to the people and say, well, bring the evidence now. The Parliament will have the power to investigate. They will have the resources to investigate. But they will be able to call the minister in front of them under the television light.
That's right.
And publicly ask them what is going on, what is happening. That is the kind of powerful parliament that I envisage. A parliament that will make laws and make national laws. As far as day-to-day activities are concerned, people, roads and drains and that sort of thing, we must reform local government to give them the power to do that. Remember, Parliament shouldn't be looking after drains and so on, man.
I must say, I can't agree with you more. Because in the Parliament that I see in the future, it's a Parliament where the parliamentarians are representatives of the people. The Prime Minister or President, as you call it just now in your opening remark, elected on a one-man, one-vote system, and that person selects his or her cabinet members, the ministers, for particular portfolios. But those ministers are not in Parliament. They are there to see about portfolios, and they therefore have a responsibility. And if they fail, they come before select committees, and they are grilled, as you say. Take, for example, Bas. For the past 3.5 years, we have the same Minister of Education.
Yes.
Every single year, schools remain closed because of lack of repairs. This year, for the third successive year, 20 schools today. 20 schools today are still closed. Longleat Presbyterian School is a scandal, and even threatening the teachers and so on. Now, if you had a system as you advocate, that minister would have been brought before a select committee and would have to give an account of his stewardship and say why it is consistently year after year schools are closed.
That's correct. He would have had to say what did he do in order to ensure that the schools opened on time. He will have to account to the Parliament and by extension the people.
But the current system is accountable to no one.
That's right.
Except he wins the Prime Minister's favor, right? And therefore he's accountable to no one, Bas. Mm-hmm. And while this is happening, 20 schools remain closed year after year. Children stay home. In St. Augustine, for the next 3 months, a sewer can't be fixed. To whom is the minister accountable? And that's why the system has to be reformed. You're quite right.
Yes, all right. All right.
No, I must confess that I never thought about this as seriously as I think about it now.
Well, I'm glad you came. But let us take a break because the sponsors have to pay for this show.
Okay, fine.
Manufacturers of limestone, split-rates, powder and greaseproof paper. We also manufacture a variety of paper and plastic bags. We have bags for French fries, sandwiches, popcorn, supermarket, stores and much more. Whatever you need, trust Shiklish Limited for quality products. Shiklish Limited, 100 Columbia, telephone 665-3336.
Yes, ladies, it's time to look more stunning than ever before. Come to Visha's and Sarah's Fashion for the list to blow your mind. Choose from our wide selection of costumes, formal, elegantly casual, christening, and children dresses, bridal gowns and classy with suits. Plus-size clothing, ladies' handbags, ladies' and children's shoes. We gifts and a large assortment of accessories are also available. You can order from our customized catalog in store. Be sure to visit Visas and Sarah's Fashion last store on the left, 2001 Plaza, Main Road, Chaguanas. Phone number 223-7240. That's 223-7240. Visas and Sarah's Fashion. It's style with a classy look. Hazina's Home and Garden Center and Hazina's Wholesale Limited announces their grand Christmas sale on all Christmas items. We are also importers and wholesalers of lighting fixtures, fountains, interior and exterior decorating items, artificial plants, living room sets, and lots more. Hazina's Home and Garden Center and Hazina's Wholesale Limited, number 50 Warren Road, Charleville, Chaguanas, or call 671-6479. Balu Engineering Construction and Maintenance Services Limited of 79 Old Racecourse Road, Union Park West, Marabella are providers of project consultancy, project management, administrative management services, claims analysis and negotiations, quality assurance, equipment sourcing and supply, construction management, health, safety and environmental management, to name a few. We at Balu Engineering Construction and Maintenance Services Limited are committed to client satisfaction. So call us at 221-6119 or email info@baluengineering.com today. Balu Engineering Construction and Maintenance Services Limited, where exceptional quality, high safety standards and true professionalism are the pillars of...
Welcome back. Thanks for holding on. That you were saying before the break?
I was saying that first ministers must be held accountable. I wanted to make the point also that we have to have term limits. Now, some people say 2 terms. I am wondering, Bas, whether we shouldn't have a system like the Mexican system, where they have 1 term for 7 years, and you finish.
1 term for 7 years.
For 7 years. The Mexicans have that.
Yes.
The Americans have 2 terms of 4 years. We have unlimited terms of 5 years.
The Americans,
2 terms of 4 years. And I'm saying we have to have term limits. Whether it's 2 terms like the Americans, 5 years each, or 1 at 7, I prefer 1 at 7. Because I have seen now that flesh is so weak that it's best to have a government for 1 term and not 2.
Okay.
Because, and I'll see that another time, another place. But for me, if you ask me now, 1 term, 7 years, would be the way to go.
Well, in constitutional reform, that question will have to be tackled, whether it's going to be 1 term, 2 term, what is it going to be the length of the term, and so on. I have noticed there have been calls, some people have been calling for elections. But I wonder why. Because if there is an election, it is a general election next week, under the same constitution, either the government or the opposition will be either in the government or the opposition.
That's right.
There's going to be no change.
That's no change. That's no change.
That has been happening for since 1956. And you know, we keep doing the same thing over and over and happening. People, I think, Jack, people are crying out for change.
And that is
they
why
want change bad.
And that is why you have the low vote. The low vote is indicative of people's disinterest, lack of interest in the electoral process.
That's a good point. That's a good point you've raised. As a matter of fact, that's an exceedingly good point you make. But also,
how do you ask yourself? I saw the thing, but in St. Joseph, after 25 projects of state resources, all you get is 5,500 votes. In one spot. Something has to be wrong.
That's right. But let's take the St. Joseph elections as you were talking about it. In that election, the PNM got 6,377. The UNC got
5,500.
The ILP got
1,976.
976. Now, you know what has happened is that the winner has taken all.
That's right.
So 7,853 people have been dissented.
That's right.
They have no representation in the parliament.
And they voted against the winner.
Yes.
They voted
against the winner.
But they have nothing to do in parliament.
And they have no seats in parliament. That surely has got to be wrong. In the parties who got substantial number of votes should have seats in the parliament.
That's what it seems to me.
Now, some people are a little afraid, and they say, well, wait a minute. In proportional representation, what happens is that the whole country is one constituency, and people vote for the groups. They have a list system. People vote for their groups and so on. But people said that, listen, if we can't go to the parliament for our problems and so on, to whom do we go? Constitutional reform must not only concentrate on the central government, but must also concentrate on the local government. They must give local government the powers.
More life. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, we don't have to look far. Tobago presents a good model from which we could work in.
Why is it good for Tobago and not good for him?
Exactly.
Why is it?
And if they introduce a model like that, then the people will have that body. That local government
is put everyone in its own affairs.
Yeah, that's right. To run the affairs. That's it. Right now, there has been local government elections. Is there going to be any change in the life of the people? The answer is not anyway. Because I remember when the PNM was in power, the councillors quarreled about funds. And then the government changed and the people get better and the councillors quarreled about funds.
That's right.
Right?
I was $9 barrel, eh? It was $9 barrel in your time, right? Now, of course, it's about 10 times the amount.
So the point is, under the present system, you can't blame the councillor for not getting things done. That is why he hides from the people, you know. He hides from the people because when they ask him to do things, he cannot do it because there's no release of funds. And then they cost him for hiding out.
But is more than that. Ultimate authority rests in Port of Spain.
That's correct.
So if you have to change the light bulb in Cedros in the community center, you have to get permission from the minister in Port of Spain. If you have to change a window pane in Irene, you have to get it from Port of Spain in Kent House.
So that there must not only be a decentralization of power, but a devolution of power.
Absolutely.
Jack, I think there's a call on the line. Caller, are you there? Hello? Hello? Is there a caller on the line?
Good night, Mr. Panday, Mr. Warner.
Good night, good night.
I must admit, looking at you all on the television, it's somewhat shocking. Given the past that you all have together, but it's very nice. It is very nice to see you all on TV tonight discussing constitutional reform. Now, I totally agree with the constitutional reform and the proposal that you have, Mr. Panday. However, one thing I would like to see is where, if we have proportional representation, most likely we would still have the party system with this new proportional system form of representation, just like with the United States and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. However, what should be understood is that everyone who is elected for a political party is entitled to their own vote. You know, recently we saw in Ishigona's corporation where the ILP councillor went against the Hello?
Yes,
where the ILP councillor went against the wishes of the party. What we need to get away from is the party-centered government more and let it lean more to the people-centered government.
Okay, you see, the present constitution has built-in areas of conflict, and this is one of them. And what you have to do is to build a constitution that resolves these potential conflicts before they reach there. And as I'm saying, we must not only have reform of the central government, but reform of the local government. And in reforming the local government, it is going to be determined how they will be elected and that sort of thing. And that kind of problem probably would not arise at all under a reformed constitution.
I agree. I agree. But then, you know, in
Sure.
the Guyanese model, they have the two-part model where you have, of course, PR, and you also have post-party post for of the elections.
Well, I think, you know, originally I had talked about PR for local government elections. I think I'm wrong. I think local government elections should be first past the post so that you have somebody you can go to. I think there's another caller on the line. Hello, caller. Are you there? Yes?
Yeah, somebody spoke to me already.
I spoke to you already?
Yeah. Hello?
Well, what you doing on the line then? But you want to talk again?
Oh, hello, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Mr. Panday.
don't forget to hang up the phone, boy.
I'm glad to see you guys, but one of the things I'd like to hear is, can you expand on how this election is going to be held? For example, presently we know we have candidates that are going up for the party.
Right.
For each particular constituency, you know, you have a number of candidates.
Yes.
Now, in your proposal for this new form of elections,
yes,
is it going to be the same way, or is it going to be different?
That's a very good question indeed. Now, proportional representation is practiced in about 79 or 80 countries in Europe and so on and over the world. And there are many forms of PR, many variations of it. I would like to see the simplest form be introduced in Trinidad and Tobago, and that is to say, you can't get rid of parties because they are there, they've become part of the institution. So parties will put up candidates. I beg your pardon. Parties will go up for elections, like the PPP, the ILP will go. I said that we are going up for elections, they'll campaign. But before the nomination day, or on nomination day, they have to submit to the chairman of the Elections and Boundaries Commission a list of people who will go into the parliament on the basis of a priority. That is to say, if there's 100 candidates, they will give a list of 100 persons, and if they get 20% of the seats in parliament, the first 20 will go into the parliament. That's called the list system. And it's a very simple system. And that is, 1 minute, let me explain this. If there's the parliament of 100 members, and there are 800,000 in the electorate, then any person who gets 8,000 votes is entitled to go into the parliament. So that I am hoping that we'll have a system where individuals can also go up. Yeah. Now also farmers will get themselves into a group, and they'll call themselves a farmers group, and they'll put up their candidates, and if they get if they get 5% of the votes, they get 5% of the seats in the parliament.
Yep.
And that is how it goes. Sorry, caller, please. Yes? I'm ready for you.
Good night.
Right.
Yeah, good night.
Good night. I just wanted to let both of you know that I turned on the television this afternoon, and automatically the biggest smile came on my face to see my two favorite politicians on television this afternoon. I have my past political leader, Mr. Panday, and my present political leader, Mr. Jack Warner. And I'm sure both gentlemen, you would agree with me when I say two things. One, that this People's Partnership government is the biggest disappointment that our country has experienced to date. And two, the government itself is one of the most corrupt governments that this country has seen since its existence. As such, this leads me to my question to Mr. Panday. And I would like to ask Mr. Panday, would you, sir, in light of the present situation that our country is in, consider getting involved in politics once again in order to bring some alleviation, some degree of hope and change to this country, be it through constitutional reform or finding yourself involved in active politics once again?
Why do you wish to disturb the idyllic peace that I have found? But I've heard you. I've heard you.
And I want to tell her to your boss, she committed sin on it. I want to tell her that what goes around comes around. So don't worry, at the end of the day, there was no reason for us to meet before we meet now. And nothing happened before its time. And the issue tonight is constitutional reform. And I am an avid believer. Having been there in Parliament for 3.5 years, I am an avid believer that the only thing to save us is constitutional reform. I was in Parliament on Friday, miss, to debate some motions the government is bringing, one of which is to ask for more money. More money. But I could talk for 2 days. At the end of it, the ayes have it.
And 2 nights.
And that's right, the ayes have it. So of what value is it for me to talk, to do research and so on, and at times to even be insulted and so on. So therefore, the point is, unless you have constitutional reforms along the lines that Bas is advocating, you're in serious trouble.
You have hit the nail on the head. They control the purse. They control the nation's purse strings, right. And they could do what they want. So, caller, there's a caller on the line. Yes, caller. Yes, please. Caller, I'm here. Are you there?
Hello?
Yes?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's nice to see Mr. Basdeo Panday and Jack Warner on television together. But Mr. Panday, will you permit me a little latitude with respect to this question? I just have a simple question for Mr. Jack Warner. From my understanding, I think he was afforded 2 opportunities to clear his name with respect to the FIFA matters. One was he was offered the opportunity either to resign.
Please.
I can answer if you want to. But you can answer if you want to. I mean,
I have not brought my guests here to be embarrassed, but you want to answer?
These guys are advocates for FIFA, they say, and for CONCACAF. I could answer him if you want. I don't want to run from a question. So if you want to say,
no, but
I mean, that's not the issue this afternoon.
But I have not brought my guests.
But I could answer if you want
to be embarrassed. I want to talk about constitutional. Listen, we could talk about that some other time, caller. But let's take another call. There's another caller on the line. Yes, please.
Hello, good night.
Yes?
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Panday, Mr. Warner, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Mr. Panday, the system that you are promoting and advocating in a small country like Trinidad and Tobago, with so many different people entering, if your system holds, with so many different people entering Parliament, in this small country such as ours, would you think that the system would only create more confusion, more bacchanal, more elections maybe have to be called every day, every morning, every month? Because there will not be, how are we going to get a consensus in Parliament when you have so many different groups you're advocating in this proportional representation system?
All right. Okay, I have the answer. First of all, do you know that there are 74 members in Parliament right now? There are 74 members in Parliament right now. But the Parliament I'm talking about does not have a Senate. It is what is called a unicameral government, one house, called the House of Representatives. But the reason for having so many members of Parliament is so that you can form the committees I am talking about, the committees to keep watch over the government, to investigate things that they are doing and so on and so forth. That is the reason why. And it will not be too much. Because I tell you, I am sure with a parliament such as the one that I'm talking about, the traveling alone could pay for the difference. Let's take a break, Jack.
Sure.
Limited, the leading manufacturers of rice and split-face pad and greaseproof paper. We also manufacture a variety of paper and plastic bags. We have bags for French fries, sandwiches, popcorn, supermarket, stores, and much more. Whatever you need,
Trust Shiklisha Limited for quality products. Shiklisha Limited, 100 Columbia, telephone 665-3336.
Oh.
Yes, ladies, it's time to look more stunning than ever before. Come to Visha's and Sarah's Fashion for the list to blow your mind. Choose from our wide selection of cocktails, formal, elegantly casual, christening, and children dresses, bridal gowns, and classy with suits. Plus-size clothing, ladies' handbags, ladies' and children's shoes, boots, and a large assortment of accessories are also available. You can order from our customized catalog in store. Be sure to visit Visha's and Sarah's Fashion last store on the left, 2001 Plaza, Main Road, Chaguanas. Phone number 223-7240. That's 223-7240. Visha's and Sarah's Fashion. It's style with a classy look.
Visit the sunset when I see us visit the sunset, sun can make hope for my Sunday, yes. We have surfing, visit the sunset, and at anniversary for Barcelona.
Over 250 grand prizes.
Money, hurry up.
No specials in no sizes.
Money, hurry up.
It's a good married rising.
Hurry up. Visit the sunset, rally red and walk, than ever before. Visit the sun, we thank you first.
Communities organize and ready for emergency or more continues with many community interactive sessions throughout Trinidad. A brainchild of the ODPM, CORE's primary objective is to help raise awareness of natural and man-made disasters so that citizens can respond effectively when they do occur. Thus far, the reaction to this project has been overwhelmingly positive. Look out for the ODPM and the CORE team when coming to a community near you soon. The ODPM, working as one to serve the needs of all.
Welcome back to It's Your Time Now, and thank you for holding on and waiting. While we were off the air, Patrona and I were talking about an issue that has always bothered me a lot, is that the political system is such that it seems to have alienated the youth. We can't attract the youth because apparently the youth are smarter than some of us, and they feel that participating in this system is a waste of time. So
They feel, as you say, they feel alienated, they feel marginalized.
what can we do?
There's no place for them.
What can you do, you think, to make the youth interested in politics, to bring him back into the political decision making?
We have to begin by educating the youth and by doing such, not cosmetic things by having a youth. We have to begin back when you were a young man, I was a young man. This was yesterday. In our school, we used to have things like literary and debating societies for a start,
Yes.
right? And those things, of course, will help to develop in you certain ethical standards of behavior, civics. You used to study civics and so on. You used to know all these things taking place. Young people have to become involved. They have to take part in politics at the local government level, at the level of their village councils, and see that they could do change. They don't feel that they could create change. They don't feel that whatever they say or do that will have an impact on what they call the old people, and because of that they have turned away.
Yeah.
We have to sit down with them and bring them back in the fold.
Do you think that if the youth, a system I'm talking about, where any group in the society, any interest group, any social group in the society can decide that it's going to put members into the parliament, that the youth themselves may decide that we as the youth shall form ourselves into a group, and we shall put members into parliament who will speak on our behalf.
And that is that what makes proportional organizations so relevant, because they do have a voice. Right now they don't have a voice in the West, and they don't have a voice. Who can speak in the parliament we have today? Who can speak for young people? Who? And young people who are in parliament, like Stacey Ryan and Ramona Ramdial and these people and so on, are marginalized. They're just for cosmetic purposes. They have no power, no authority of any kind and so on. And therefore, young people themselves do not feel that they have a part to play in the government of the country.
But if they feel that by their own action they could go into the parliament and make a change, we might interest them.
Sure.
I think there's a caller on the line. Yes, caller. Yes, please. Caller.
Hi,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm calling for the program.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Jack Warner,
Yes.
don't get discouraged, sweetheart. Let me tell you something. You were supposed to be up there ever since. But you always took the back wrong, and you always stayed back and whatever. Don't ever get discouraged. But let me tell you something. I'm a mother. I am a business owner, and everybody is Jack Warner, Mr. Jack Warner. Children are Mr. Jack Warner, the children are Mr. Jack Warner. But they're discouraged of PNM and the UNC and the Corp. But you are the one who built UNC. You are the one who was there. You stand up when everybody from UNC and everybody was sleeping. Where were you? I was one of the person when you was in your office crying, and you was there, and you helped me. These people won't talk about that. They'll talk about Mr. Jack Warner did this. You put our country in a map. You did everything for us. And after God, let me tell you something. We're going to pray, all these little children and everybody going to pray. You are the man. Do not get discouraged for these losers and them.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
And,
Thank you, ma'am.
and what you are saying is very relevant to what we are talking about here this evening, because we are saying that Mr. Warner's party, like Mr. Prakash Rama's party, like the party of Mr. Abdullah, they all have a right to be in the parliament. But they cannot be in the parliament under the present system. That is the point we are making here tonight. There's a call on the line? Yeah. There's another call on the line. Yes, caller?
Good night, my former political leader and my present political leader.
I don't know who you're talking about, whether over me or Jack.
Former meaning, present meaning Jack.
Anyway, go ahead.
Right. Anyhow, the discussion is very, very rational, and I see through this thing because Mr. Warner's party, the ILP, in an election, 102, compared to the third party, merely 30,000. So certainly they need for proportion representation. And I would like, if you could educate the public more on that, apart from the program you have here, if Mr. Warner could have some monthly meetings, because the people waiting to hear him, and we also waiting to hear him. And Mr. Warner is very important to the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
You are raising a point that other people have raised, and they're saying, okay, we are talking on television and so on. Yes. But how do we carry this thing to the people? The next step. All right, that is something we shall have to think about. And thank you very much for bringing up the idea. There's another. We're busy tonight, aren't we? Yes, caller?
Yes, hello. Good evening, Mr. Panday and Mr. Jack Warner.
Yes.
I just want to say that I think you both gentlemen should come together and rescue our country, because the poor people out here is crying. They are suffering. They are getting nothing from this government who has put them there. Please, Mr. Panday, please, Mr. Jack Warner, come together and help the poor people in this country.
Be that as you may, as you wish. But even if your wish were to come true and all you would get together, they will still not get a seat in the parliament unless we change the constitutional reform, unless we have a different system of electing people. So that is the frustration we are trying to deal with. A lot of people call me and say, oh, why you don't form another political party? To form another political party is to be crushed by the system again. That is to say, the two monolithic parties will come election time will resort to race, they'll vote race.
Come back home.
And the small parties will not have a say. The youth will not have a say. The farmers will not have a say. The fishermen will not have a say. Yeah. The workers will not have a say. The youth will not have a say. That is why we are working so hard to change the system.
And Bas, yeah, I don't think we should give up, because nothing in life comes easily.
Of course not.
Right? And I am not at all one who gives up easily. At the end of the day, whatever is good is worth fighting for. And this is what I believe about this particular system. And you're crying for constitutional reform. Unless we have that reform back, we cannot go for other people.
I agree with you absolutely. I know that is a matter we shall. Right. I know that is a matter we shall have to deal with.
What is your view, however, in terms of having? I didn't get it quite clear, and before we could, I want to know, having an executive president as against what we have now, this ceremonial president. What is your view with that?
I believe that the present system is a waste. The president is neither here nor there.
Neither fish nor fowl.
He's neither no good red herring. The poor president. I believe this president means well. I think he wants to do things. He can't. The system doesn't allow him to do that. I remember when he was elected president, he said that there were some powers that he had that we knew about, and there were some that we did not know about.
I'm yet to see.
I am waiting to see the ones that I didn't know about. I know the ones he don't have, and therefore, the president that you have a president now who is the head of the government. The one I'm talking about. He's elected by the people. He's not elected by the parliament. Because whoever wins the government will elect the president.
Okay.
The president, as I've already said, is a creature. No disrespect to the president. The president is a creature of the government.
Yeah.
And you want a president who is separate from the parliament. You say, you go out and come and tell us how you're going to run the country for the next 5 years, whatever. Tell us what it is. We'll give you money for it, but we shall be watching you every day for the next 5 years. That is the kind of president I'm talking about.
And that again calls for constitutional reform.
That again calls for constitutional reform.
Yeah.
So that
what therefore and I know that we come into the end and I know we have to go, but I need to get this for you. What therefore you think is the present fate of the constitutional exercise that the government is doing for some $45 million?
Well, I would hope that the chairman of that commission is Mr. Ramadai, is it not?
Yes.
Well, I propose to invite Mr. Ramadai to come on this program to discuss constitutional reform, and I shall certainly ask him the questions you're raising here this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Warner, I want to thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be here. I think this has been a very good discussion, and it has been an even better discussion because you have, as I said, enjoyed and suffered under this constitution.
Yes.
So you've seen both sides.
A beneficiary and a victim.
A beneficiary and a victim of the constitution. It has been a very, very, very enlightening discussion from someone who has been there.
I would simply hope, perhaps, that this discussion can continue and can go further to educate the society at large, and that, as somebody asked early on, that we can find what we can do next at another level, next step, to go beyond the television, so that the public, because this is a critical issue. And if there's one thing we could leave as a legacy for the country, I think, is leaving the country with a constitution that is better than the one it has now.
Thanks for that comment, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ladies, it's time to look more stunning than ever before. Come to Bisha's and Sarah's Fashion for the look to blow your mind. Choose from our wide selection of costumes, formal, elegantly casual, christening, and children dresses, bridal gowns, and classy with suits. Plus-size clothing, ladies' handbags, ladies' and children's shoes, boots, and a large assortment of accessories are also available. You can order from our customized catalog in store. Be sure to visit Bisha's and Sarah's Fashion last store on the left, 2001 Plaza, Main Road, Chaguanas. Phone number 223-7240. That's 223-7240. Bisha's and Sarah's Fashion. It's style with a classy look.
debuting every Tuesday at 8 p.m. from Market to Market.
Win Caribbean and Win Radio 101.1 FM are now on the Rogers Cable Network in Canada. Just weeks after Win Caribbean launched on the Bell 5 network, we can now be seen by 2.25 million customers on the Rogers Cable system in Canada. Tell your friends and relatives that they can see all the latest news, sports, current affairs, and entertainment shows direct from Trinidad with just the flick of a switch, as well as party to the powerful 101 lineup of DJs. Win Caribbean can be seen on channel 672, and you can hear 101.1 FM live on channel 673 on the Rogers Cable System in Canada. Win Caribbean is now live in Canada. We're taking Trinidad and Tobago to the world.
Hello, welcome to Major News at 7 right here on Win Caribbean. I'm Michelle Michael. A very good evening to you, and a very good evening as well to our online viewers via our live stream on www.wintvworld.com and those viewing us in Canada on Bell 5 and Rogers. Now it's straight to our major headlines. The President's Committee will release a list of recommendations on Friday to deal with the issues affecting our nation's prisons. Minister of National Security Gary Griffith says the police detection rate has dropped over the past 3 years because citizens are not coming forward to report criminal activities.
Works and Infrastructure Minister Dr. Sujrasan Ramachan has indicated that a section of the Point Fortin Highway will be opened by 2014. Stay tuned to Win Eyewitness News for more on the story.
Newly installed Mayor of San Fernando, Kazim Hussein, to crack down on criminal activities in the city. And in sport, today, November 19th, TNT faces Jamaica in a friendly international as we remember